It's a sin, and it's a minor sin because it's prohibited because of what it has. If you're going to kiss a woman or a woman's going to kiss a man, it's very, very, very easy to fall into something that is really serious, i.e., fornication. All right. It is the same with pornography. Right. Pornography actually has many detrimental effects. Right. It has many detrimental effects, creating false desires, generating a negative, perception of women, okay? Another dangerous thing about it is it's highly addictive. It's more addictive than heroin. Pornography is more addictive than heroin, right? Because what it does is present to you an almost endless stream of, maybe not necessarily beautiful, but an endless stream of variable women, at least from the men's perspective, right? And there is no emotional attachment. And the image that you see on the screen or wherever it is almost as powerful as seeing the real thing. Somehow your brain doesn't necessarily distinguish that much. But what you have is an image, or you have something that seems to be like the real thing, but there is no emotional attachment. So, the pornography doesn't nag you, right? It doesn't give you a hard time because you didn't come home late. You came home late at night, and because that's a very dangerous thing, right? It creates this, it has many negative effects, right? So in no way, shape or form would I encourage a person to do that. And it's something that is really negative, right? But on the other hand, the point being is that a person should never reach to that stage that they're thinking, that they reach despair. And they just think that Allah can't forgive them, and that, my prayer is, whatever, or this and that. And of course you should try and keep away from sins, and you should do whatever is necessary to help you, especially I encourage that person to get married. But you shouldn't ever despair of the mercy of Allah. And you should put it into perspective. It's not to make light of it, but you need to put it into perspective, and you need to understand really where this stands on the level of sins, and really why and what is the reason why that has been prohibited. It's prohibited because of what it has the potential to lead to. Okay, so I think I would just advise, someone who is on that type of situation, where they're really almost, it's leading them to depression, to put it into perspective, inshallah. Barakallahu feek.
Okay, we have three questions on a similar topic. Basically, it's feeling sad and depressed when we feel that our deen is threatened. And there's one that I want to read specifically. In practical life, when you become an active professional, you find yourself step by step doing things that you didn't imagine that you do before. A practical example being, a Muslim working as a practicing doctor has to socialize with the team and staff with whom he is working, as he has to go with them for dance parties. You also have to take lunch or dinner at the end of a conference day where they serve wine. You'll not drink it, but you'll still have to sit with them for lunch or dinner, especially if you were presenting in the conference. So how do we deal with such things?
Have to? What means legally binding? What does have to mean? I have to in order to advance my career. I'm not sure what the have to means here, right? So I'd have to question the have to. Okay, there's lots of things that you may feel you have to do and you don't. And that's really what it comes down to. Do you really have to do it? Dance parties? You have to go to a dance party as a doctor? I don't know what, to learn calisthenics or something, or aerobics. Or, that's a new one to me. All right. I know in the UK that if you want to specialize, if you want to specialize in a field, it is really problematic, because you can only specialize in a field if you, in a sense, get adopted by a specialist, right? So if you want to become a brain surgeon, you need to become almost an understudy of a brain surgeon, right? And often that means doing whatever it takes in order to get that guy to agree to accept you, right? And so often, those people are going to be the people who turn up to the parties and turn up to the things, and they, do whatever, right? But the issue here is, what sort of compromises can you really make as a Muslim, right? So I think what's important, brothers and sisters, is you need to draw very clear lines for yourself. You have to draw very clear lines for yourself, and you shouldn't step beyond those lines. That's what it comes down to. And you don't make up those lines. Those lines come from the Sharia, right? You are in the Sharia allowed to make certain compromises in certain situations, but my brothers and sisters, I would not leave this up to your own personal decision. That is why it is very important, okay, to study, for example, maqasid of Sharia, right? Because it will teach you the principles through which and by which you can make such decisions. But even more importantly, brothers and sisters, it's good to have a relationship with a scholar, right? Who can advise you and give you guidance as to, what sort of compromises you can and can't make. Yeah? So I don't think that you see, again, what you're falling into is this feeling of loss of control, that you're slipping away, that you're compromising more and more. But again, you have to draw lines or have lines drawn for you, and you have to stick with it. And you have to say, well, this is something I cannot do and I will not do. Okay? And I think, dance parties, come on. You go to a conference, you give your speech, do you really have to sit down with the people? I mean, the sitting down with people when they're drinking alcohol is, it's an issue. You shouldn't do it. That is true. But there are some circumstances where, from what I have talked to some scholars about, or a scholar at least, but I don't know if that's one of those circumstances. Business is not one where you can make a compromise like that. But do you have to sit at the table? Do you have to sit there when they're drinking alcohol? You don't. You've given your presentation, right? What if you had a migraine? I get migraines, so, I'd say, I've got a splitting headache. I'm sorry, I have to go. I just, whatever. You can't do that. I mean, okay, you don't want to lie, but, the point being is that you don't have to, do you? So, a lot of the things you say, people say, oh, I have to do this, and I don't really think you do have to do it. So, Allahu Alam.
How do you help someone in depression? What would be the best approach in order to help them?
If a person is clinically depressed, and the description of clinical depression is, as we mentioned, all-encompassing low mood, low self-esteem, loss of interest and pleasure in things that you usually find enjoyable, right? And we're talking about not a major depressive episode yet, no, we are, but we're not talking about, okay, go through it again. Feelings of worthlessness, inappropriate guilt, helplessness, hopelessness. Well, I would think that you talk through the person, right, in a positive way, right? You show them why things are not hopeless, right? Why they are worthy, why they should feel good about themselves. There's lots of things for you to feel good about yourself, And so what I would try and do, depression is not something that you can just click your fingers and snap out of it. That's not true. And you shouldn't think that about a person. Oh, just snap out of it. A person didn't snap into it, so it's very hard for them to snap out of it. Depression is accumulation, right, of lots of circumstances, right?